And the river still shines and shimmers in the light as it did in our grandfather's day, when they rode all night to fish in the morning and lived in Willapa Bay.
All right, next up here on stage is Jefferson Holland, a modern-day Chesapeake troubadour, singer, songwriter, poet, storyteller, performs all original materials inspired by decades of life on the Bay. Let's warm it up for Jefferson.
Thank you. It's a real thrill to be here in Astoria. I come from Annapolis, Maryland, and my real claim to fame, oh, thank you. My real claim to fame is the work on the water that I've been had the opportunity to do, and that is I was a river keeper for a number of years for the West River and the Road River just south of Annapolis. I also served as an assistant harbor master for the city of Annapolis, and then also helped to create the Annapolis Maritime Museum, which is set in an old oyster packing plant called McNasby's Oyster Company building. But I actually come from the little neighborhood that's across the harbor from Annapolis proper, and it's called Eastport. And this is where traditionally, since Civil War, black families and white families have lived close to one another, next door to one another, side by side in relative harmony, in an otherwise totally segregated society. Most of the men worked out on the water, catching rockfish in the wintertime, oysters in the wintertime, crabs in the summertime. And women would work at the McNasby building, shucking and packing oysters and sending them all over the world. It's a wonderful neighborhood, but it's kind of the sad sister of downtown snobby blue blazer Annapolis. And we're kind of celebrating that function. See, the Eastport boys, you know, that we're about to have spring. I've already seen forsythia and daffodils. You're way ahead of us over there in the East Coast. We wait for March 21st, and then we perform a specific ceremony, and then all of a sudden spring comes and the ospreys come back, and it's all. See, them Eastport boys got this odd tradition. When the sun swings to its equinoxial position, they build a little fire down along the docks. They doff their shoes and they burn their winter socks. Well, they burn their socks at the equinox. You might think that's peculiar, but I think it's not. See, they're the same socks they put on last fall. And they never took them off to wash them, not at all. So they burn their socks at the equinox on a little old fire, burning nice and hot. Some think incineration is the only solution because washing them contributes to the Chesapeake's pollution. So through the spring and the summer and into the fall, they go around not wearing any socks at all, just stinky bare feet stuck in old deck shoes, whether out on the water or enjoying a brew. So if you sail into the harbor on the 21st of March and you smell a smell like Limburger mixed in with laundry starch, you'll know you're downwind of the Eastport docks, where they're burning their socks for the equinox. Now, Annapolis is known for the United States Naval Academy, which has been there since 1845. But the real claim to fame is the international boat shows that take place there early October. Has anybody ever been to the Annapolis boat shows? Well, you should go. It's amazing. The whole harbor is taken over by floating docks, and they pack in hundreds and hundreds of sailboats one weekend, and they all go away, and then the power boats come in the next weekend. It's great. Now, on the first day, so this past year at the powerboat show, a guy was walking down the aisle, and there he saw this beautiful speedboat. It's all sparkly. It was 30 feet long. It had jet drive. It was all electric powered, and it had this incredibly small price tag on it. He went up to the dealer and said, "Hey, tell me about this boat." And the dealer said, "Well, you see, this was owned by one of those billionaire televangelists, and he got caught with his pinky in the poor box. So he went to prison, the boat got repossessed, and we got it. So the guy says, well, that doesn't explain that low price. And the dealer says, well, there's this other thing. See, it's a totally autonomous boat, and it only runs on voice command. And the minister programmed it in a weird way, and we can't figure out how to fix it. And the guy says, well, tell me, how does it work? He said, well, you see, you sit in the helm seat, and you say, okay, boat, let's see, how does it go? I think I can remember. He had said, praise the Lord, and the boat takes off. So how do you make it stop? Well, you say, holy Moses, and the boat stops. The guy says, well, for that price, I can live with that. So he pays the price, and he takes it home, and he launches it in the local boat ramp, and he's sitting there in the middle of the river, and he says, okay, boat, go! And the boat doesn't do anything. So, okay, boat, start moving. Praise the Lord, and the boat takes off like a moon rocket, and zooming down the river, and he's going, wow, this is great, and then a sign passes by. He said, what sign? The sign said, danger, dam up ahead. He says, whoa, boat, the boat keeps going. He said, stop, boat, the boat keeps going. He said, holy Moses. And the boat stops right over the rim of the dam. And he goes, praise the Lord. So we have legends around the Chesapeake Bay, and one of them is of a legendary sea monster that they call Chessie. Let me tell you the story of Big Captain Dan, that oysterback son of an old waterman. One day last July, when they hauled out his traps, they found that he had him a whale of a catch. It was Chessie the sea monster, Chessie the sea monster, Chessie the scourge of the Chesapeake Bay. Chessie the sea monster, Chessie the sea monster, feared from Cape Henry to Havre de Grace. Well, some sailors thought when they happened to see her that she was an eel or a plesiosaur. But Dan found a gigantic dog, a retriever, not a fish, not an eel, not an old dinosaur. Well, Big Captain Dan was astounded to see her, a 42-ton Chesapeake Bay retriever. She knocked down his boat with her 80-knot breath, then hauled out her tongue and near licked him to death. Well, Big Captain Dan was astounded to see her. He took her back home to his house in Whitehall. She was big enough to have been Moby Dick's daughter. Her head was still dry in 5 fathoms of water. She made 6-foot wakes with a wag of her tail, and he made up her bed and a spinnaker sail. Now, not many people could ever get used to a pet twice the size of a railroad caboose. But Dan liked the way all the tourists would gawk when she followed his boat to the old city dock. Well, they got along fine till one day last November, a day Dan would rather not have to remember. She dug a deep hole like to bury a bone, but what did she bury? The whole State House dome. Oh. And then came the time that she went way too far and stirred up a scene like the Second World War. She jumped in to fetch a big stick, so Dan thought. But what she fetched back was the governor's yacht. Oh. Dan watched a platoon of dog catchers pursue her. It took a division of men to subdue her. They loaded her onto a truck with a crane and chained her up back of the SPC. Poor Chessie the sea monster, Chessie the sea monster, chained to a tree as a final resort. Once she could play all day long in the bay, but now she's held prisoner back of Eastport. Well, that winter the bay froze as thick as a glacier, and Captain Dan felt too downhearted to face her. The wind froze the flame on the end of a match, and the watermen couldn't get out for their catch. With the Chesapeake frozen as hard as a rock, and the workboats all stuck in their slips at the docks, Dan was becoming a mean old recluse. And to add to his troubles, Jessie broke loose. She had chewed through that tree like a pup chews a stick, except that this tree was a full 4 feet thick. Then she plunged through the ice and she cleared it away as she swam out the Severn and into the bay. Captain Dan, called a voice in a trice. That dog of yours cut a big path through the ice. All the watermen cheered. Let's try that again, gang. Okay, ready? All the watermen cheered. They saw what she'd done. At last they could sail on an oyster dredge run. Get ready to say hooray for Jessie, hooray for Jessie. Ready? Hooray for Jessie, hooray for Jessie. Jessie Dan hugged her, you sure saved the day again. Hooray for Jessie, hooray for Jessie. Jessie the hero of Chesapeake. Oh, you've heard this before. Thank you.
White Maine spruce, grain so even, you can almost hear the music now. Sidewood bent in the water steaming, and the easy slide of a dovetail saw. I learned these skills, but no one taught me. I make guitars that others play. Too much rain and darn long winters, but I love the work of a luthier's trade.
So I'm very lucky to have Mary with us. Mary presented last night at FisherPoets Gathering. And Mary, I so enjoyed your performance. Can you tell me more about your work?
It's not really work the way I do it. They just sort of come to me and I just write them down. That's about it. And I see all these people really, really work. And I feel guilty because I'm not really, really working. But I think there's stories out there or people out there that want to be talked about or that they want to give us their stories. So like I have a song about a boarding house lady up there and canneries and some women, not probably half and half, men and women, but some of the shore things as well. Mm-hmm. I think very important.
Well, Mary, you're lucky that they'll just come to you and you can share them with all of us. What would you like to share with other people about the FisherPoets Gathering and why they should come and maybe tips?
Yeah, definitely should come, and it's a great amount of fun. The weather this year is perfect. It's been snowing and icing before, but it's perfect this year. And it's just incredible history, and you have to sort of look for where stuff is because it's sort of spread out, but there's stuff in the library, stuff in probably the Maritime Museum still, I think. And down at Pier 39, there's a lot of stuff in the center part of town. It's just really great. And some of the places have food and drink as well. It doesn't get better.
Mary, anything else you want to share with us?
No, I'm just very honored to be here. I'm not really a fisher myself. I have the greatest respect. I've worked in fisheries research and have some, I lived in Newfoundland, so I got a lot of experience there. But I'm not exactly a fisher. I'm not at all. I would last 5 minutes on a boat and I'd be swept overseas even if it was calm.
Mary, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today.
Thank you.
Take care.